Supreme Commander. President, the hero of D-Day and the leader of the free world during the most dangerous decade of the Cold War. Dwight David Eisenhower was born on the wrong side of the tracks in rural America, a boy with a hot temper and a love for football, whose modest upbringing gave little hint of the monumental heights he would one day reach. He was the five-star general who orchestrated the largest invasion in military history, a man whose calm demeanor held together a fractious alliance of giant egos and clashing nations. He was the president who presided over an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity, who built the highways that connect a continent, and who sent troops to enforce civil rights in the segregated South. But he was also a leader of contradictions, the general who sought peace but authorized secret wars, the conservative who expanded the New Deal, the president who loathed the demagoguery of Joseph McCarthy but refused to condemn him in public, and the man who left office with a chilling warning about the very military-industrial complex he helped to build. For decades, his legacy was debated, dismissed by many as a do-nothing president who preferred the golf course to the Oval Office. But as the archives opened, a new picture emerged, that of a masterful hidden-hand leader who guided the nation with a quiet, unseen strength. So who was the real Dwight D. Eisenhower? Join us as we open the legacy files. Dwight Eisenhower's story begins not in the halls of power, but in the humble heartland of America. Born in Denison, Texas in 1890, he was raised in Abilene, Kansas, the third of 7 boys in a working-class family. His parents, David and Ida, instilled in their sons the core values of the American plains: hard work, faith, and self-reliance. His mother, a devout member of a pacifist Mennonite sect, was brought to tears by his decision to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. For Ike, as he was nicknamed, it was a practical choice, a path to a free college education that his family could not otherwise afford. At West Point, he was an average student, more passionate about football than his studies. A severe knee injury tragically ended his playing career, but it pushed him into coaching, where he discovered a talent for strategy and leadership that would define his future. He graduated in 1915 as part of the legendary class the Stars Fell On, a cohort that would produce an astonishing 59 generals, including Eisenhower himself. The 2 decades that followed were a long, frustrating apprenticeship. World War I ended just 1 week before he was scheduled to ship out to Europe, a deep disappointment he feared would stall his career. But these interwar years proved to be the crucible that forged the future Supreme Commander. While others sought glory on the battlefield, Eisenhower mastered the complex arts of logistics, planning, and organization. Under the mentorship of brilliant commanders like General Fox Connor, he devoured military history and theory. He graduated first in his class from the elite Command and General Staff School, and he spent years as a senior aide to the notoriously difficult General Douglas MacArthur, a masterclass in diplomacy and managing colossal egos, skills that would prove indispensable in the war to come. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, Eisenhower was a relatively unknown brigadier general. Within days, he was summoned to Washington by Army Chief of Staff George C. Marshall, who saw in him a rare combination of strategic brilliance and diplomatic calm. His rise was meteoric. In less than 4 years, he went from a staff officer to a 5-star general of the Army, commanding the most powerful military force ever assembled. In December 1943, President Roosevelt made the fateful decision to appoint him Supreme Allied Commander, tasked with planning and executing Operation Overlord, the D-Day invasion of Normandy. It was a challenge of unimaginable scale. Eisenhower had to orchestrate the air, land, and sea forces of a dozen nations, all while managing the clashing strategies and titanic personalities of leaders like Churchill, Montgomery, and Patton. On the eve of the invasion, with the fate of the world resting on his shoulders, he visited the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne, offering quiet words of encouragement. In his pocket, he carried a note accepting full responsibility in case of failure. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it read, "It is mine alone." But D-Day was a stunning success, and 6 months later, in the frozen forests of the Ardennes, Eisenhower faced his ultimate test as a commander. Hitler's last desperate counteroffensive, the Battle of the Bulge, caught the Allies by surprise, creating chaos and threatening to split their armies. While others panicked, Eisenhower remained calm, seeing an opportunity. He masterfully redeployed his reserves and unleashed General Patton's Third Army in a daring counterattack that broke the back of the German offensive. The battle was a bloody victory, but it solidified Eisenhower's reputation as a true, battle-tested commander. Returning home a hero, Eisenhower was persuaded to run for president in 1952. With the irresistible slogan, "I like Ike," he won a landslide victory. For 8 years, he presided over an era of peace and prosperity, but his leadership style was often misunderstood. Critics saw a detached president, but declassified records later revealed a shrewd and active leader who governed with a hidden hand, guiding policy from behind a carefully crafted facade of amiable calm. Domestically, he pursued a middle way he called modern republicanism. He resisted calls from conservative Republicans to dismantle the New Deal. Instead, he expanded Social Security and created the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. His most enduring legacy is the Interstate Highway System, the largest public works project in American history, which transformed the nation's economy and culture. On civil rights, his record was complex. He privately believed that progress could not be forced by laws, a gradualist view that drew sharp criticism. He refused to publicly endorse the Supreme Court's landmark 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision, which outlawed school segregation. But when the governor of Arkansas used the National Guard to block 9 African-American students from entering Little Rock's Central High School in 1957, Eisenhower acted decisively. He sent in the 101st Airborne Division to enforce the federal court order, the first time since Reconstruction that a president had sent troops to the South to protect the rights of African Americans. He also signed the Civil Rights Acts of 1957 and 1960, the first such laws in over 80 years. In the Cold War, Eisenhower's first priority was to end the bloody stalemate in Korea, which he achieved with an armistice in July 1953. His new-look foreign policy sought to contain communism while balancing the budget, relying on the deterrent of massive retaliation with nuclear weapons, a strategy that offered more bang for the buck. But this policy had a darker side. The Eisenhower administration used the CIA for covert operations to overthrow governments perceived as unfriendly to U.S. interests. In 1953, the CIA orchestrated a coup in Iran, and in 1954, another in Guatemala. These operations were seen as cheap victories at the time, but they installed brutal dictatorships and left a long, bitter legacy of instability and anti-American sentiment that haunts global politics to this day. At the same time, Eisenhower sought peace. In his famous Atoms for Peace speech at the United Nations, he called for international cooperation to harness nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, an initiative that led to the creation of the International Atomic Energy Agency. but his hopes for a breakthrough with the Soviet Union were shattered in 1960, when a U-2 spy plane was shot down over Soviet territory, leading to the collapse of a crucial peace summit. At home, he faced the demagoguery of Senator Joseph McCarthy. Publicly, Eisenhower refused to engage, telling his aides, "I will not get in the gutter with that guy." But privately, he orchestrated a clandestine campaign to destroy McCarthy's influence, culminating in the 1954 Army-McCarthy hearings, where he invoked executive privilege to starve the senator of the headlines he craved. McCarthy was censured by the Senate, his reign of fear finally over. A masterful, unseen victory for the hidden-hand president. As he left office in 1961, the old general delivered a final, prophetic warning. He cautioned Americans to guard against the unwarranted influence of what he termed the military-industrial complex, a powerful alliance of the armed forces and defense industries that he feared could endanger American democracy. For years after his death in 1969, historians ranked Eisenhower as a mediocre president. But as his private papers were released, a dramatic reassessment began. The do-nothing president was revealed to be a deeply engaged and effective leader. Today, polls of historians consistently place him among the top 10 greatest presidents in American history. His legacy remains a subject of intense debate. He kept the peace and presided over prosperity. He navigated the treacherous currents of the Cold War without stumbling into a nuclear holocaust. But his covert actions left deep scars on the world, and his reluctance to lead on civil rights is seen by many as a missed moral opportunity. Above all, Eisenhower's story is a testament to the American dream. The poor boy from Kansas, no more remarkable than any other, who rose to become one of the most consequential figures of the 20th century. What do you think of Dwight D. Eisenhower? Was he a weak party leader who shied away from many important issues of his day? Or was he one of the greatest generals of the Second World War, whose leadership qualities made him a renowned and well-loved president? Please let us know in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching Legacy Files.